Hey, good morning, Pete, North Las Vegas. I'm in the process of finishing up the wiring inside the engine compartment, and I just about got the vintage air AC done. I just thought that I would check these relays and make sure that they're wired up according to what vintage air's showing on their diagram. Looks like everything's correct, so all the wiring is going to the right places. I was trying to figure out the best place to mount these relays and still be able to get to them, so that all I had to do is, stick my head under the dash. And I saw some people mounting them up here underneath the firewall dash area, and I've seen some people mounting them over here. And I just decided for me personally that it would be better just to put them here, and that seemed to be the easiest place to get to them. So this is just a piece of aluminum flat stock that I cut, drilled some holes through, drilled some holes to this top mount, and then that way I can get to the nuts on the back of these relays pretty easy. And so anyway, yeah, pretty much done in here. The violet wire is your ignition power, and this tan wire is supposed to be for a dash backlight. Not exactly sure. Maybe that's for the controller. We'll figure that one out later. And this gray wire here with the connector on and the directions, they say that's for programming. So I don't think I'll have any use for that. But anyway, we're pretty much done in here other than running the ducting. So anyway, we'll go out in the engine compartment and kind of show you what's going on there. So my vintage air kit's pretty old. I think I bought it like at least 10 years ago, maybe longer. So this is the heater solenoid valve that they provided, and it's kind of big and clunky. And they sell a newer version now, a replacement in case this burns up. It's a lot more streamlined. It seems to be more plastic, more lightweight. But anyway, this is what I got with my kit from Vintage Air. And the white wire here is your ground, and the green wire is what comes off the relay. And then so there's two white wires in the sheathing and two red wires, and that's these here. So this white wire here and this white wire here, that's these two. And then they provided two red wires. One comes off the smaller red wire is for the heater control relay, and then the big red wire is for the blower, and that goes through this 30 amp circuit breaker. And there's three styles to this. There's a manual reset where these have a little button on the side if you want to reset them. There's automatic reset to where once the issue goes away or the circuit breaker cools off, it'll reset itself. And then they have a third style where you have to disconnect power from it in order for it to reset. And I don't know which style they gave me, other than it's not the manual reset. So I think it's probably the automatic reset. So anyway, in their instructions, they say to hook the hot wire and the ground wires directly to the battery. So that's going to be this hot here and these ground wires. And so anyway, that's pretty much the wiring to the battery. Now, their diagram here is set up for a clutch fan, a belt-driven cooling system. And that's why what originally came with the kit was this binary switch. So you won't see any fan controls here. It's pretty simplistic. You can go to their website and they'll show you how to do it with the trinary and electric cooling fans, which we're going to get into right now. Okay, so here's the trinary switch that I'm using. And these green and black wires control the compressor. And these blue wires provide a ground for your cooling fans. So anyway, we'll get into that. And because I'm running electric cooling fans, there's my control system for the fans. But anyway, off the trinary, the green and black wires that I was showing you, that's what controls the compressor. Now on my compressor, I'm running a standard GMR4, and because I'm running digital Dakota electronics, I decided to go ahead and put a diode in here. And what that diode does is prevents any backfeeding from when the magnetic field on the coils collapses. When you kill power to this, it's going to want to try to maintain that current flow in reverse polarity, and it could backfeed the system with some current or voltage. Now, if your car is all electric, you don't have any electronics, probably don't need to worry about the diode too much, but just to be on the safe side, I included the diode. So anyway, Vintage Air used a dark blue wire coming off the relay inside the car and out through the firewall, and that's this one here. And that's going to be going to one side of the trinary switch, which I think I was showing earlier in the video, that uses a green-black wire. So this green wire here is the wire that I put in, and that runs all the way over to the compressor. And then the other side, I think I was already showing, but that's the ground, the black wire right here. So would have been nicer for them to use a dark or a green or a green black, but anyway, it all works. So anyway, for the radiator fan control, I ran a blue wire off the trinary, which is going to be this one right here. So this is going to go through the trinary, and then that wire runs inside the car up to this switch here. So that's this wire here coming off the trinary, and it's going to run through a switch that I installed here. And the reason I wanted to do this was to be able to isolate the AC from the fan control if I wanted to. If for some reason this thing should fail closed, or we should have some other failure in the AC system, I wanted the ability to stop the AC from operating the fans. And so that's why I put this switch in here. So anyway, like I said, the blue wire is going to run to one side of the switch, and then the other blue wire is going to come down here and provide a ground. And I'll show you where I have the blue wires over here on my control scheme. So this is going to be the blue wire coming from the trinary, and that goes down through here, and like I said, back into the car through the switch, and then it comes back out right here. So if I turn the switch off inside the car, it stops the trinary from turning the fans on. Okay, I guess I should back up a little bit before we get too far gone on how I wired up my fans. So there's going to be three basic ways for these fans to come on, and that either AC control through the trinary, so long as this additional switch I put in is closed, the engine temperature switch, which is I mounted here on the front of the intake, and this is the Dakota Digital temperature center. This tells the instrumentation the actual temperature of the engine. This is just a switch, so that's all it does. So all I'm using this switch for is fan control. So anyway, we were talking about the blue wires coming down here and providing a ground through the AC. And then this engine temp switch will also provide a ground directly to this fan, so it turns fan 1 on directly. And the engine temp will also provide a ground to this time delay relay that I put in. So this is one side of the timing coil that's going to pull the load contacts in. So anyway, once this sees a ground, because I have battery voltage sitting here at the top, then this thing starts timing 3 seconds, and that will turn fan 2 on through the delay, either from the trinary or the engine temp. So either one of these, if it calls for fans, there's going to be a 3-second delay through this timer. And then I also put in a manual switch, and I got to get this relabeled. This is going to say fan 1 and 2 instead of just fan 1, and that's going to be fan 2 only. So when I turn this manual switch on here, it's going to turn on both fans. However, fan 2 will be delayed 3 seconds. Now, if I turn fan 2 manual switch on, I've bypassed the timer, applied a ground directly to the relay, so fan 2 will start immediately. So that's kind of the basic control scheme that I got going on here. So why did I put this delay timer in here? Well, this is a pretty big alternator. I think it's I can't remember if it's 160 or 180, but it's pretty good size alternator. But still, these Spall fans pull 18 amps each. And so that's a total of 36 amps. And then you also have the, when the AC is running, you've got that blower that's going to come on also. So that's three high amperage devices all possibly trying to come on at exactly the same time. And I didn't want that big of a hit on the electrical system, which is why I put that delay relay in for fan 2. So anyway, as far as how I routed power around, I have an orange wire that came with the American wire kit, and it was actually marked electric fan, and I double checked, and it is switched. So you only get power to this side of the relays to operate the fans if the switch is in the run position. And I don't think you get power in accessory. I think you only get power to these fan relays in run. I have to double check that part. Doesn't really matter to me. But anyway, so that's how these relays get their power through the switch. And then the fans themselves, I have coming directly off of the battery. And so here's the heavy gauge wire off the fans. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but there's a 3mm fusible link that runs directly to the battery. So I have protection straight off the battery. I forgot to mention that on the power for the relays, they go through a 30 amp circuit or a fuse on the fuse block. And so I have the battery side feeding the load on these relays protected by a fusible link. And then on the fan side, through the relay, I also have separate 30 amp fuses. So I know might seem like a little extra or a lot, but I use Velcro, a belt, and suspenders to hold my pants up. I guess that's the only analogy I can come up with right now. Okay, so really all I got left is lighting, horn, and finish up the trinary and battery connections, and the engine compartment is pretty much done, and then I can move inside. And this is for the vehicle speed sensor. This goes down to the transmission and tells Dakota Digital how fast we think the car is going. But actually, some of the hardest things to decide is where to actually mount stuff to get to it at a later date, and without interfering with something that's, you know, where you're not blocking access to something else. So I'm kind of thinking about maybe mounting this, making a bracket and mounting this down on the bottom of the steering column. And it kind of makes sense for all these connections. Will be the shortest run for most of them. But anyway, just kind of a quick update. I hope I didn't get anybody real confused. I did a video about a month and a half ago on my fan controlling system, and I had those original plans way more complicated than they needed to be. It was basically, I looked at it and I just started laughing. I did a logic chart for all the different switch positions and what happens when you have this on, that off, or is the engine temp controlling things, is the AC controlling things, is the fan actually come on certain switch positions, or is it just enabled? And when I did the first fan controls, it was too much. It was like, you know, I'm not driving this car to the frickin' moon. So I've simplified it quite a bit since that video. But anyway, this is the final setup here. Anyway, Pete, North Las Vegas, over and out.